So good day everyone, my name is John Lebras. I'm going to report the labor market, wages in perfect competition, chapter 6. So learning objectives. After reading and studying this chapter, you should able to. So this is what we expect you to learn. So define labor market dollars, identify the determinants of market wage rates, explain why workers have different wages, and explain the different concept, factor markets, efficiency wage, superstars phenomena, labor market equilibrium, and signaling theory. So, when you hear about factors markets, what immediately comes to mind? If your answer is about the four factors of production such as labor, capital, land, and entrepreneurship, that includes it. Factor markets are the factors of production plus the element of market. This means that these factors of production are actually what is being bought and sold in a factor markets. So as a recap from chapter 1, we know that labor is a worker's effort. So there is no labor if there is no worker's effort. Next is capital. Capital is basically refers to the facilities, equipment, and other resources that aid in the production of goods and services. So the capital is the main source to building the facility. So we also learn about land, which is the ground or the natural resources required in a production. So land is very important in building facility, because without land, where are we gonna build the facility? So next is entrepreneurship, which is ability of one person to see economic opportunities. The entrepreneur is able to put together land, labor, and capital to build these opportunities. So entrepreneurship is the one who hire and put together land, labor, and capital to make their company. So they hire laborers and they supply capital and they create opportunities. So next is when households sell resources, they receive income in return. For land, the income received is called rental income. So rental income for land. For labor is wages. So most commonly is known is salaries. Next is for capital, it's interest, and for entrepreneur, it's the income from profit. So for capital, it is interest, and for the entrepreneur, it is profit. So this chapter focuses on the labor markets. So markets for the factors of production. While economy largely focuses on the markets of goods and services, or what we commonly refer to as outputs of production, there are also markets for factors of production or inputs to production. These are what we call factor markets, which keep the circular flow of commonly economic activity moving. So, product market and factor market. A product market is the market for final goods services, which is usually considered to be consumer product. So for example, in the automobile industry, the market for automobile or vehicle are called the product, while the market for auto workers is the factor market. That is, the labor as factor of production creates the market. So the labor is a factor of production creates the market. So, a factor market. A factor market, on the other hand, is the market for the factors used in production of consumer product, and that is the good produce itself. So, the factor market is the one who make the product market. Since product market is consumer product, means this product is ready to consume by the consumer. So next, in factor markets, opposite the markets for goods and services, it can be noticed the household and firms in circular model are reversed. So, reverse in factor markets and household and firms, because households are on the supply side and the firms are on demands or are in demand side. So the example is people in households are the auto workers or the one who get paid or supplying or selling their labor, which is firms buy or demand. So the households or the auto workers hire or buy their labor. So labor markets are the best example for represent factor markets, while markets for capital and land are also count as factor markets or markets for the factors of production. Cause labor, as says, labor creates the market. That's why. So the market determines the allocation. No, a labor market is a market where people offer their skills to employers in exchange for salaries and other forms of compensation. So the household workers or the auto workers offer their skills and talent for exchange of salaries and forms of compensation. This compensation may include insurance, health insurance, and other kind of benefits that the company issued or offer. So the market determines the allocation of labor and its costs. Just like saying the market determines where people will work and how much they will be paid. So in every work or position, there is a specific wages. So people will go for this work because of the salary or the money that they will get or they will be paid. So labor market equilibrium. The question of why wages and employment go up and down can be analyzed and answered by understanding the labor market equilibrium. It is a fact that individuals would be more willing to work when wages is high, while firms prefer to hire when the wage is low. To iron out this conflict, we will discuss labor market equilibrium as this will be balanced this out. So later on, the next reporter will tackle more about what is labor market equilibrium. So when we say equilibrium, in the word equal or equal, yes, when we say equilibrium, it means equal. Next is the labor demand. The demand for labor is simply like demand for good, so it generally follows the law of demand. So the wage, which is the price of the labor, will be plotted in the axis of the graph, and the quantity of labor, which can be expressed by the number of employment available in the market, will be plotted in the x-axis. Similar to the law of demand, when the price of labor increases, the related quantity of the labor decreases. So magkabaliktad sila kung the labor increases, the price of labor increases, the quantity of labor decreases. So if the quantity of labor increases, the price of labor decreases, which makes the relationship inversely related. So magkabaliktad. This means the employer will hire more people when wages go down. So of course, the employers will hire employees because the salary is go down, just like the construction workers, which basically known for small wages or they have small salary. So next is the labor market. So in what I said earlier, the wage is in the axis of graph, while the labor supply and demand is in the x-axis. So this is the graph that I am talking about. So labor supply, as there is a law on labor demand, it only follows that there should also be a supply of labor. So labor of demand and labor of supply is interconnected. As wages increases, more people will enter the labor market and compete for the high paying jobs. So, as we all know, if a wage is a wage increase or the wage of the specific company is high, of course, people or many people or professional will fight or compete for this high paying job. For example, a doctor, engineer, something like that. So, but if wages decline, people looking for job who is prefer to get high wages will be less interested in competing. So, of course, if the salary or the wages is low, so there is no competition because there is no gain on that kind of situation. So same principle with the law of supply, which says that if the price of labor increases, then the supply of labor will also increases, vice versa. So as it says, if the price of labor increases, also the supply of labor will also increases. So they're dependent on each other. So the market labor supply generally tends to curve upward, pataas, typically as how supply curve in goods, services market or product market are. So as I said, price of labor increases, then the supply of labor will also increases. Labor is widely different from leisure. When we say leisure, it is the free time of the workers. While labor is work rendered, leisure on the other hand involve activities that an individual actually doesn't get paid for. So because it is leisure or free time, also they don't get paid for that because that is their free time. This is one of the reasons why overtime works people are willing to give up some of their leisure time if they are paid enough to do it. So some of what I know is the teachers and the office workers, they sacrifice the leisure just to get paid. So they go overtime works just to get a more salary. With the labor demands and supply met in a certain wage and quantity of workers, equilibrium takes place. So as I said earlier, equilibrium is mean equal. So this point of equilibrium is called the market clearing. So it's called market clearing. So market clearing is the process is economic term, which is the process by which is in economic market the supply of whatever is traded is equated to the demand so that there is no excess of supply of demand. So pantay gud sila. So this point of equilibrium is called the market clearing, wherein firms may hire an employee at this existing wage rate, and the people who would like to have rate will be able to do so. However, as this competitive labor market, even though there is a market clearing identified, employers and employees may leave the labor that wage market as they may want to pay lower wages. So as I said earlier, if wages is low, of course there is no competition and earn higher wages. So the worker will eventually find another company or institution that offer high wages. So that's my end of my report. Thank you and have a good day.
Good day, ma'am. I am Lega Indoyon. I am the second reporter. So, what determines market wage rates? So, a basic principle of economics is the notion that the price or value of goods, services, and even resources such as labor is determined by the behavior of demand and supply. So, the decision to set salaries and provide a competitive package is typically made by the company because it can influence the employees' motivation and retention, which ultimately benefits the business. So several efficiency which mechanisms or models are the following where companies can benefit from. Higher wages improve worker morale and effort. O ang mataas na sahod ay nagpapabuti sa moral at pagsisikap ng manggagawa. And the second is higher wages reduce worker resignation and labor turnover cost. O ang mas mataas na sahod ay nagbabawas sa pagbibitiw ng manggagawa at mga gastos sa paglilipat ng trabaho. And the last one is higher wages attract more applicants. O ang mas mataas na sahod ay nakakaakit ng mas maraming aplikante. So, equilibrium wages. When jobs are easy and safe, we can assume that the wages are on the average and most people would want to have such that jobs. Equilibrium wages. When jobs are easy and safe, we can assume that the wages are on the average and most people would want to have such jobs. Workers would naturally need a higher wage to perform such a type of work when the job tends to become challenging and dangerous. So this compensating differential is the wage difference that results from balancing out the non-financial aspects of various jobs. So people who work graveyard shifts or in coal mines typically get paid more to compensate or bayaran for the unpleasant nature of their jobs. Equilibrium in competitive labor market. In a perfectly competitive labor market, firms and workers are free to enter the exit at the market, which makes the equilibrium allocation of workers to firms efficient. So the company maximizes the overall benefits that workers and businesses gain from trading with one another, regardless of how the workers fit. Resource allocation is efficient when there is a competitive equilibrium. In the supply and demand analysis for a labor market, the horizontal axis represents quantity and the vertical axis represents price or the wage. So, however, in this context, the quantity of labor, which can be calculated as the number of employment hours, is denoted as L, and the cost of labor, which is more commonly referred to as the wage, is denoted as W. That's all. Thank you.
Unemployment. Unemployed adult is simply defined as someone who does not have a job, but willing to work and looking for a job. The labor force is comprised with a number of adults who are employed and unemployed. So there are different types of unemployment, namely frictional, seasonal, and structural. So seasonal is temporary work to meet an organization's temporary needs during certain times of the year. For example, business that are only open during parts of each year, such as ski resorts, business that need extra workers during peak periods, as many retailers do during the holiday. So frictional unemployment occurs with voluntary employment transitions within an economy, as workers choose to work from one job to another and new workers enter the workforce. For the first time, a temporary period of unemployment is created. So, for example, dissatisfaction with the current company or role. So, instructional unemployment can keep the unemployment rate high long after a recession is over. If ignored by policy makers, it creates a higher natural unemployment rate. So for example, employees who produce a specialty clothing product that suddenly is no longer a trend might lose their position during this specific product, causing structural unemployment. The efficiency wage theory, developed by economists Carl Shapiro and Joseph Stiglitz. It will be beneficial for firms to pay workers above the equilibrium wage way to encourage workers to work more efficiently and more profit for me. So for example, Amazon has recently increased the wage for their lowest paid staff globally.
So, good day everyone. I am Dean Ernest A. Goddess, the last reporter for Group 6, and I will tackle the factors that explain productivity and also the earnings and discrimination. So first, let us discuss the factors that explain productivity and wages. So why do workers earn different equilibrium wages? So an individual's ability to earn or perform useful services can be highlighted by his training, education, and experience. So we as individual, in order for us para kumita and makapag-perform in different services, dapat nato i-highlight ang atong education, our training, and also the experience. So without it, maglisod tag pangitaog trabaho because there is a standard, and that's how important it is. So such endeavors which can augment individuals' earnings are called human capital investments. So when we say endeavors is pagsusumikap, and also the augment is para madagdagan. So we should in ourselves because the knowledge and the learnings nga ato we should invest in ourselves because the knowledge and the learnings nga ato magain is useful para pod sa atoa. And as you can see, if you have the education, right, higher possibility nga maka-work sa big companies and dako pod ang atong ma-earnings. And also, we call it human capital investment because when people invest in education themselves, they are considered investing in their earning capacity by increasing their productive services. So, when employees get higher wages above the equilibrium wage rate, it enables the workers to afford more necessities and gain as they eat healthier, experience less, and so on. So, paying worker higher equilibrium wage rate would make the workers value their jobs. So, more as they find it hard to get the same wage level elsewhere if they leave their present job. So, diba, if we work in one company, then dako ang ilahang wage rate, maglisod tag exit to that company, dili na tamang gitag lahi pa nga kuan job sa other company kay dako ang iyahang sweldo. So, high wages give employees an incentive to stay with the company, which then reduces the company's need to train and hire more workers. Kay diba if makuhaan nagkuan kaning workers, mag-hire na pod og lain, then train na pod. So mas sayon ra sa company if ang workers magstay lang sa ilahang company. And sayon ra pod sa workers if dako pod ang sweldo kay they can afford necessities, mga needs nila, and they gain as they eat healthier kay maka-afford naman sila kuan lamion nga mga foods, right? And they experience less stress, di ba? Dili ta ma-stress if natay kwarta, right? So in turn, workers productive and firms benefit from it, better nutrition, and become more productive. Kay di ba if kuan kaning what do you call this? Sakto atong kaon kay we are more productive, right? Just like sa picture in the PPT, the boy is parang holding the cash and he is happy. So, the efficiency wage model has its own critics saying that since workers would get more than the equilibrium wage, several have argued that there may be unemployment making efficiency wages seen as a market failure which can be addressed by government intervention. So firms, they operate more efficiently if wages are above the equilibrium level because workers are more productive. So mao to if dako ang sweldo, mas productive ang workers mo trabaho. So on the other hand, sa part po sa uban, they argue that there may be unemployment making due to this efficiency wages kaya ang mga firms or companies, they prefer qualities over quantity. So mas taasan nila ang sweldo sa mga current workers to be productive than recruiting more employers, which lead to unemployment. So let's proceed to the earnings and discrimination. The neoclassical theory argues that wages depend on the supply and demand for labor, and that labor depends on the value of marginal productivity of labor. So, ang wages, nagdepende siya sa supply and demand for labor. That labor demand depends on the value of the marginal productivity of labor. So, when we say marginal productivity of labor, so it is the additional output resulting from hiring another worker. So, if taas ang demand, then mag-add ng additional workers to the company sa job para masupplyan ang demand. So, there is a growing rate happening. So, in competitive markets, workers earn a wage equal to the value of their marginal product. So, when we say marginal product, this refers to the change in output seen with per unit change of an input while keeping all other factors of input constant. So, for example, kaning mga labors, the materials. So, if unsa ang value sa marginal product, dapat maupod ang wage nga madawat sa usa ka workers sa competitive market. So, according to marginal productivity theory, so companies maximize profits if ang original cost of productivity rather marginal cost of labor equals the marginal revenue product of labor. So there has to be a positive result if mag-add og workers para makabayad ang company sa ila, and they can gain also profit. So dili kay mag-add lang og workers, then bisag kuan kaning bisag gamay ra ang what do you call this, ang kita sa isa ka company, sige ra gyapon sila add og workers, dili sila kabayad sa mga workers. So that results to negative. So when we say marginal is having a little more or like less something. So it refers to the effects of consuming and or producing one extra unit of good or services. So why do workers earn different equilibrium wage? Ngano daw lahi-lahi ang wages sa workers? So, labor market equilibrium balances out the conflicting desires of workers and firms and determines the wage of employment observed in the labor market. So, as what I have said, if taas ang kuan kaning demand, then the wage of the workers, the equilibrium wage of the workers is taas pod. If low ang demand, then low pod ang equilibrium wage of the workers. So I think that would be all. Thank you.